here.
But it also goes back to your leadership of inviting people to the table that are smarter than you, more creative than you. Because if you are the smartest person at that table, then you're in the wrong room. Got the wrong people around you, to be quite frank. You're never going to grow in that space. So it's always good to see that people are challenging you on your own words that you've mentioned. Hey, you remember when you said this? Well, listen, I was listening, and this is where we think we could really, be a bigger, partner or a bigger player in the space. So I love that. Can we talk about some of the things that you guys do? What the services, what are the programs
Yeah.
that you guys are doing?
Sure. So we mostly go into schools and then communities like Head Starts. Do you have Head Starts where you
Yeah, yeah.
are? Okay. Um, so we provide actual professionals, so psychologists, speech therapists, occupational therapists, special education teachers
Okay.
that go into schools or communities and work with the kids. They will do testing to find out where the kids need help. And then they will actually do interventions with the kids. So a big portion of what we do is actually professional staffing. And we train our people, we monitor them. We're consistently collaborating with our people out in the field. And then the other pieces of what we do is we actually do psychological evaluations here in our office. And they are private evaluations. And what's unique about it is that because we have worked clinically and we have worked in schools, families can come to us and gain a perspective that they don't necessarily get if they get an evaluation just at a school or at an evaluation just at more like a hospital, because we have both. So we're able to say to them clinically, this is what we're looking at. However, when you go to school, they're not going to do these two things because the school doesn't have to, but they will do these two things. And we've just had tremendous positive feedback from parents and organizations because we're able to combine those two mindsets. And I'm really proud of our team for the way that they are executing on that. And then the final big thing that we do is that we provide trainings to everybody and anybody. We want everyone to get on the same page and be speaking the same language. So we will meet with kids, we meet with parents, we meet with school staff, we meet with community staff, and we want everyone to understand this is what autism is, or this is what depression really is, or all of that, because there's so much out there in the world that just isn't accurate. It's just things we've all made up from our own personal experiences, which are important, but maybe not the actual definition of it. So that's a big deal for us, and empowering kids to understand mental health and mental illness is huge, because way too many of our kids are like, oh, I have anxiety, and they don't. They're worried. They have typical feelings of nervousness, but they don't have an anxiety disorder. I think we've glorified it just a little bit, and I don't mean it in a bad way. I think it's fantastic we are having these conversations, but I also think we have to keep it leveled. You don't have a disorder. That's actually a very typical feeling. Let's figure out how to work with it.
You know what was actually bothersome a little bit here is my wife, her brother, maybe 25 years old, I believe, and recently went to go see a therapist after a breakup, right? And he went through some things in his life from mom kind of walking away and just life happening per
Yeah.
se, right? That's just we all got stories, and immediately they put him on prescriptions, on drugs, and it's like this is a 25-year-old that wanted to go to the military, right? But now they consider him bipolar, and probably just because of the story that he was saying, and instead of them just trying to figure out the story, they just automatically just went into this direction. And it's so sad because I was also talking to somebody else, and he says, Efrain, I would love to go to therapy, but I feel every time I go there, they always want to put me on some drugs. And he's like, I don't want that. And I didn't have that experience, but it's really sad when we're trying to get assistance, and this is what was happening. And not everyone's doing that because I had a good therapist, but you also mentioned your thoughts create your feelings, and your feelings create your behaviors, and all these different things, which is like, why are people going to see a therapist and the outcome is that? I think it's scary, don't you think?
I do too. It makes me uncomfortable. I understand that at the heart of it, you're trying to control the emergency of the emotions, the crisis of those emotions right away. I do think we jump to it too quickly, with the medications. But I also, on the other hand, there are some situations where that person absolutely needs it to be okay in the everyday. But I do think we jump to it because all the other things, those thoughts, those feelings, and how you learn how to manage those takes work. We say it's like a sport or a hobby. You literally have to practice mental health skills every day, every single day. And you might not even see it out loud. It's in your head. That's where it really begins, is your thoughts. So, I'm driving into work and I'm like, oh, I've got this podcast today. Shoot, what if I screw up? Or what if and then I have to go, stop your thought, because what if you do wonderfully? What if so I have trained my brain to, when I start going down that negative pathway, to cut myself off and say the exact opposite.
Yeah.
And that takes work. And that's the issue, is that, we have become a quick fix society, immediate gratification. And that's just not how good mental health is sustained.
Okay, so let's stay on that space, right? Mental health. I'm a big believer in mental health, and I do believe, I think I told you, this journal called The Mindset Reset. And it was really questions. Sometimes we don't ask ourselves questions the way that we should ask ourselves questions, or people don't ask us questions the way they should. It's talk about, right? It's how people say things. It's not what they said. So I think it's us stopping it, but it's also when it's happening in our minds. But even those people around us, the noise of people that are doubting you, people that are saying it's not possible, or people calling you with all their negative stories about you're in a space of trying to get out of this rut, right? Like, I think when we talk about mindset, there's a lot of factors on how we can really change, because there was this time in my life as well, especially as a founder, as a leader, imposter syndrome happens all the time to us.
Oh yeah.
Where we doubt ourselves, right? And it is having to just think differently, right? It is having to turn on some good music, maybe at the time, some worship music in my case, to really be able to get out of that, realizing like, no, that's just the enemy trying to get at me. And in reality, I have to stop that. So do you feel like all those are factors as well?